Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast, The Wire Remixed, Season 4, Episode 6, Margin of Error. As always, I'm joined by one, Robert Sapp. How you doing? How you doing this early evening, Mr. Sapp?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Enjoying the snow.
What little of it there is right now, but it's another story. This episode is marked the midpoint, basically the midpoint of the season. Season 4 had 13 episodes. And if you don't realize, give you a bit of backstory of this episode, not only of this episode of this season. Um, we discussed earlier that The Wire was initially was not going to come back for season 4, let alone season 5. So they put in a show that would kind of bridge the gap uh, in between this break that they had called The Hall, which was supposed to tell the story of Carcetti and Mayor Royce and Tony Gray. So that is one of the reasons why this season. It kind of felt, I'm not going to say, you kind of felt like you had a lot of things going on in this particular episode as well as this season with the politics and the education and also with Marlowe's ascendance. So of course that pilot only became a pilot. That show never happened on HBO. So instead, you got a heavy dose of politics during this season, in particular this episode. This was a very good episode. Personally, one of my favorites in season 4. It always is. Margin of Error, directed by Dan Atias, ranked 18th all time by Vulture, and you have the epigraph, "Don't try this shit at home," who by one Norman Wilson, who is of course the campaign manager of Thomas Carcetti. Um, for themes, I had the kids see everything, and we'll see how that takes place over the course of this episode in regards to our 4 friends who we've been following during the season. Opening scene. This is the Sunday before the primary for the Democratic mayoral candidacy, and you see Royce, Carcetti, and Tony Gray all going to separate churches. Of course, Royce goes to a Baptist church. Tony Gray goes to a Catholic church, and Carcetti seemingly goes to a Pentecostal church in West Baltimore. We also see Naaman going with his grandma, not his grandma, but his foster mom, Miss Anna, going to church. We see Bodie and little Kevin across the street, even on a Sunday, still slinging on a Sunday, in the cold. So we see a bunch of things going on in this particular scene. We did get inside the church, and most of the scene was spent with Carcetti, with Carcetti, and you see the Reverend Reed, who is actual, by the way, is an actual minister, by the way. That guy who was the preacher is an actual real life preacher, Reverend Reed. And during his sermon, he is talking about mixing in politics with his sermon, talking about Moses and the kind of expectations that we all should have of our public servants. Uh, you know, they should be men of truth and not men of covetedness. And when he says that word, you see the camera pan into Carcetti, and you see Carcetti's wheels are spinning as he is taking in this these words by one Reverend Reed. Kind of some foreshadowing there going along, foreshadowing in that particular scene. And then of course we see towards the end of the scene, Reverend Reed talking to Carcetti and saying, I basically will keep an open mind until I vote on Tuesday. He notices Carcetti has not Reverend, but Elegant Delegate Watkins work in the crowd. We see the deacon speak to the reverend. We know the deacon is just connected, just seemingly knows everybody. So that was not a surprise whatsoever. So we are, a couple of days away from the election. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, very good opening scene. Letting us know a creative way and letting us know that the election is here. That will be also a theme in this episode, like different ways in which they kind of like showed like how the city is dealing with the election, and then also just kind of showing you the three candidates and by proxy, kind of like what election day looks like in Baltimore at this time.
So we go to Signer and Herc. They, of course, are surveilling Marlowe in the surveillance truck. As of right now, they don't see anything. So Marlowe nor his peoples are outside. But there will be certainly more to come with that a bit. Certainly a bit of certainly a setup. In regards to what's going to transpire with Herc and Marlowe. We go to Carcetti and Watkins. They're trying to pick, of course, this is they're trying to pick up last minute votes, and then they notice a flyer that has a Carcetti photoshopped by a notorious slumlord. Notorious slumlord. Of course, Carcetti is enraged by this, but you see his campaign people, Norman in particular, say, "Hey, we got this. This is why, this is what this is what we do in regards to dealing with this." So this clearly shows that Royce is running scared in regards to it was clearly something that was done by Royce. So they notice that he definitely is running scared in regards to how close this election is. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, you named it right there.
So we go to Naaman, Brianna, and Delonda. So Naaman, Brianna, and Delonda. So Naaman and Brianna are on their way to see. Naaman and Delonda are on their way to see Brianna Barksdale. They are initially excited. Delonda says, explains to Naaman, what Wee-Bey did for Avon and Stringer in regards to, how he stood tall for them during his time with them, and maybe Brianna has something special in line for one Naaman Bryce. So definitely a setup in terms of what's going to happen. What were your initial thoughts on them heading to see Brianna Barksdale?
Yeah, definitely. It's almost kind of like it's definitely set up for Naaman's character in the future, but it's almost a epilogue, like the final closing of the chapter for the Barksdale organization.
Yep.
And that side of the show. And so I thought it was very cool in that instance.
Yeah. Well, and certainly we will get to the exact scene in a few. Marlon, we have Chris, Marlowe, and Monk. So they are back where Marlowe, of course, chops it up, sets up shop. They are having this fake conversation in where Marlowe is going to pick up some narcotics from the train station. You see Signer and Herc with a lip reader in the truck, reading what Marlowe is saying. You see Marlowe making it very clear in terms of pronouncing his words and what have you. So Signer was like, so when Marlowe says what he says, pick up the skinny girl, don't want nothing to go wrong. Herc is excited, saying, I told you basically Marlowe was a mope, you got him. So Herc is feeling good about himself. Signer is like, I don't know about this. It doesn't make much sense that Marlowe Stanfield get close to a package. So he's he's not always buying into this. You can tell his reluctance, and you see Marlo, you see Marlo and Chris giggling. If you really pay attention, notice they're basically giggling after Marlo says, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of this. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Shut up.
So we go to Carcetti. So Carcetti's with his team. He's just trying to figure out a strategy in regards to dealing with the situation with Royce and the slumlord, this smear campaign. Carcetti does not want to smear, does not want to go back and forth with Royce in terms of coming up with a smear campaign of his own. And Norman Wilson jokingly says, maybe we should lie about Royce being caught with a boy and a dead girl in the hotel room, and jokingly says that, but basically says, listen, says to Carcetti, we're professionals, we're professionals, we're gonna figure something out. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yep, just set up.
We go to Brianna, Delonda, and Naaman. So Brianna Barksdale explains to them that there is no more money. Avon's away. The money has in essence ran out. Which certainly makes sense. And the important part of this was number two things. One, the fact that she specifically called for Naaman to be there. And two, she says that Brianna, that Delonda has been amply compensated for. Says you have not been disrespected. You've been taken care of for all the time that Bay did with the Barksdales or served the Barksdales, and was loyal to the Barksdales. And she made a point to say it in front of Naaman. Delonda, of course, is annoyed by this because this means that she actually will have to probably, have to do something besides sit at home and, drink and take trips and what have you. So she's annoyed by this. She says that Brianna seems to be doing well for herself, and says that Bay basically threatens Brianna in terms of, Bay could get the run in his mouth. Brianna basically says, hey, they don't have me at all on the phone or near any drugs in which she's right. And the fact that she really doesn't care for Avon Barksdale, doesn't care about what happens to Avon Barksdale if Weebay were to start talking to get Avon more years, which we know Weebay is not going to do. What are your thoughts on this scene? You mentioned it earlier. It's kind of like a closing chapter of the Barksdale family, and what in terms of their organization. What were your thoughts on the interaction between?
Yeah, ain't no kind of about it. Like this was the way I should have set the first part up is just like that was the beginning of her final statement of the Barksdale organization. This is her final statement. She makes it very clear that she does not mess with Avon like that and does not care what happens with Avon. And so, in a lot of ways, like you learn the money's gone. We learn that the Barksdales aren't even talking to each other and kind of don't even care about each other. And what's very important about the fact that Brianna is severing ties with Bay is just like all of those things that tie and connect the organization together, those are being all severed. And so it is just kind of like the closing. It's the end of the Barksdale era. Is closing the book on that and letting everybody know that day is done.
Oh, how about
and symbolically for Naaman, it is now you're going to have to walk on your own 2 feet on your own name, yada yada yada. Or the beginning steps of that for him.
How about the idea or the fact that she wanted to say that in front of Naaman, in regards to saying that the last part of the scene where she says your mother has been amply compensated for.
Yeah. It's just like what I said. Like the symbolic, like all of this is. I mean, what this scene is absolutely about is the symbolism, and the symbolism is for Naaman. Like I said, the adults don't matter in this show. It's all about the kids, and
Right.
so it's about Naaman. And so Naaman being there is symbolically like you don't like your mom has used Weebei's name a lot. You're not going to get to do that. Like that. Like the days is cut. If you're going to survive, you're going to need to do it on your own. That is what this all is symbolically saying to Naaman, which will play heavily in the coming episodes because we're going to analyze his choices.
So we get to Kima and Norris. They get some more. They get some more information. Norris gets some more information on the witness, witness being killed. They discuss it, um, and they discuss it. So, what were your thoughts on this latest discussion about that the Braddock case moving forward?
Shut up.
Carcetti and his wife. So Carcetti, of course, is upset that about the idea that this picture with the slumlord could cost him the race. He mentions to her that, at the beginning he was resorted to defeat when he was down by 15 points. He knew going in, the odds were stacked against him as a white mayor in Baltimore, or a white man trying to be a mayor in Baltimore. But the fact that he's this close, basically running neck and neck with Royce, if this cost him the race, he would be devastated. If this is the thing that cost him the race. What were your thoughts?
Shut up.
Get back to Naaman and Delonda. They talk about the meeting with Brianna. Naaman questions Brianna in regards to, what Brianna said about her being amply compensated. Delonda, of course, calls Brianna a lying bitch and says that there are things about this world you just don't know. She says that, you need to step up. You need to step up, and you're going to get a package from Lodi. She also calls Weebay in jail, complaining about what transpired with Brianna. Weebay is, he takes the call, of course, but Weebay was barely paying attention to what she was saying. Basically, one word answers from him. He wasn't. I mean, we know Weebay is not going to say anything about Avon. We know his loyalty to Avon, and we know Weebay knows, knows Delonda and when what she's all about. What were your thoughts on this interaction?
Shut up.
We go to Carcetti and Norman. So Norman goes to pick up Carcetti. Carcetti has already left his house, of course, responding to the election. This is election day, so Carcetti is already out. Norman, of course, is annoyed by this. We'll see how that plays out over the course of the episode. We go to the Western police, or the Western District Police. They're doing roll call and going over latest warrants and news. So they finally get a warrant out for Omar. Of course, this is going back to the last episode when Marlo and Chris set up Omar for the killing of the delivery lady. So they finally have a warrant for Omar's arrest, and you see that McNulty is not necessarily does not buy it that Omar would kill a citizen. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, you named it. It's the fact that that McNulty goes, this doesn't really seem like Omar.
And we see how excited all the Western officers were to finally have a warrant on one Omar Little. go to Carcetti and Norman. Norman catches up with Carcetti. Carcetti, of course, is back at the office. Seeing he hasn't slept all night and trying to come up with more ideas to get more black voters. He's going through all these scenarios, and Norman basically says, "Look, we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing here. We'll take care of this. Uh, so listen to your team. That's what Norman's trying to emphasize. Trust. You have professionals working with you. You have professionals working for you. We know what we're doing. Uh, we know what we're doing. What were your thoughts on this interaction with Norman and Carcetti?
Yeah, you named it. It was about his team and just getting Carcetti to chill out.
So Prez and Duquan, we see Prez continue to take care of Duquan. He allows him to shower early before classes start. He gives him some new clothes, some clothes, gives him a laundry basket or bag to put his clothes in. So we continue to see that relationship develop. We continue to see that relationship grow, and in the same scene, you see Naaman, Paul, Monel, and Tiffany. So, of course, you remember the last episode where what transpired with the two boys and the girl in the bathroom as Randy stood lookout. So the girl, Tiffany, goes and tries to get the attention of the two boys, Paul and Monel, who happen to be walking with Naaman down the hallway. They basically, blow her off, but it was Naaman's comment that will end up doing the most damage, as Naaman says, how much, basically 50, can I have, he basically said, 50 cent, would you have sex with me for 50 cent? She responds to it, and they insult her, embarrass her in front of not the entire school, but a lot of people in the hallway. We will see what that leads to. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean it's set up, but it's set up for Randy, and like the kind of like this is the defining moment of like his life in this show, and is going to kind of show us the beginning of where the path is going to lead for him.
We go to Ross and Landsman. Ross basically creeps up and surprises everybody by showing up in the unit. You hear Crutchfield say, we hate. You hear Crutchfield and Holly say, they basically hate when the bosses show up out of nowhere. Crutchfield says, "Yeah, I need to unclench my ass cheeks." And then you have Rawls and Landsman discuss the Braddock investigation. Again, Rawls tells Landsman basically, we're going to slow this thing down by assigning Norris and Greggs to election duty, and they can pick up the investigation on Wednesday, which will be after the election. And he explains to Landsman, hey, this we don't want to piss off either. We don't want to piss off either Carcetti or Royce, because one of them is going to win this election. So that this is basically Landsman, not Landsman. This is basically Raw's, playing politicking himself, and basically saying, hey, slow this down until after election day. What were your thoughts on this interaction?
No, you named it. It's the politics of the whole thing.
So we go back to the classroom, to the teachers. The teachers at the middle school find out which students are going to be taken out of their class. Of course, these are the students that are going to be, the corner kids. So teachers are excited to they find out which students are going to be taken out of their class. Of course, they completely agree with this in regards to how this is going to take place, and they go over a list of a number of students that are going to be taken out of classes. and assisting and going on with Colvin and the academics pilot program. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. This is the beginning of the kind of like setting up the program. So definitely set up just the beginning of it.
So we go to Carcetti and Norman. They are back again, still going over some last minute strategy in regards to the election. They are with the team, and then Clay. Norman tells them that Clay Davis wants to see them for a meeting, and of course Clay Davis wants his money, $20,000, just to take the meeting. Carcetti is reluctant to do it, but his team, Norman and Terry DiGascino, both say that convince him that he should take the meeting. That if Clay Davis is running game, all we have to lose is the money. So they decide to take the meeting. What were your thoughts?
Yep, set up.
So we have Prez and Clay. Prez in the class. So teachers come by. No, Vice Principal Donnelly comes by and starts to take kids out of class, starting, of course, with Naaman, Zenobia, and Darnell. They take other kids out of class who they identified to be a part of the program. And Naaman, on his way to see what the program is all about, sees the young lady Tiffany, talking to the police. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, set up.
So we go to Clay, Carcetti, and Norman. Clay Davis says they're at a restaurant. He says that he cannot publicly support them, but he can split around. He can split up his walking around money as well as his tickets between Carcetti and Royce. So he gives them a number. They look at the number, basically agree to it, and then they leave. They leave the meeting. Thoughts on Clay Davis?
I mean, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's like it's set up, but when I'm saying set up in these cases, it's character set up, and so like there's definitely this is a shift episode, and so they're setting up Clay Davis's character for the future, and the main thing that they're setting up is how skilled a politician Davis is.
Yeah, definitely a lot of setup and foreshadowing for his particular character. We go to Randy, Paul, and Manel. So Randy gets called down to the vice principal's office. Randy says that he was says that he was a lookout for Paul and Manol, and says that once Donnelly comes at him about Tiffany the girl claiming to be raped, he admits to being a lookout and says that he was a lookout, but she was willing to do it, that she was willing to do it, that she wasn't raped. Of course, Donnelly says, "How do you know? You still were there, and you still were part of the situation." She, of course, threatens him with suspension, was possibly expulsion, and the police knowing about this as well. So as she's picking up the phone to call his foster mom, he starts singing like a canary, just basically telling everything he knows about things that happen in the school and what have you. And then he finally comes to the point to where he tells about Lex's murder, about knowing about the murder of Lex, which pauses her and really garners Donnelly's attention, and which is basically will be a life changing moment for one Randy Wagstaff. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this scene was about getting the the knowledge that Randy knows about the murder out into the general public, not just amongst everybody he knows, but to the audience, and then through the administration of the school, and then through that we'll then bring in the police and then the audience and everybody else.
So we go to Cuddy. Cuddy has spent the night over a woman's house. He wakes up the next morning, is going out to jog. He attempts to sneak out before the woman can know that he's gone. But as he's leaving, she catches him before he leaves. Says, "Are you coming back?" And he basically says no. He has some things to do. She acknowledges that she basically was just a one night stand. And Cuddy goes on a run during election day. We hear, of course, the music, the classic tune "Move On Up" by Curtis Mayfield. As we see Cuddy running, we see a montage with Royce and Carcetti and Tony Gray taking pictures and voting for themselves as we have finally made it to election day. What were your thoughts on Cuddy?
Yeah, this is what I was alluding to. There's no thoughts on Cuddy on this. But the structure of the scene was the thing that I thought was really cool. The way in which to show how the election is happening all along the city without it just being like just straight up cuts of like Carcetti just going in and voting and Royce going in and voting, and it being like really like choppy. I love the music, and then having Cuddy going out for a run, and then the run being the way that we as the audience experience how the election is happening over the city. And that it's a big deal, and this is this episode. If there's another theme, a lot of things in this episode, this is about change. This episode is about the change that is coming. And so I thought that was a really cool way to represent it in this montage.
So we see Naaman, Spider, and Randy. Spider and Randy. Spider is passing out voter information. As Cuddy sees him, Spider runs off, and then we see Spider tells Randy, explains to Randy what he's doing. He's getting paid, getting paid for it. So Randy this leads to Randy getting a job passing out Carcetti and voting pamphlets and leaflets along the way. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, this is set up.
So we have Naaman and Delonda. Of course, Naaman, there's no school on election day. Naaman's playing video games. Delonda basically tells him, she's going to get dressed, and we're going down to see Bodie, of course, to get that package. What were your thoughts on Delonda?
Yeah, I wanted. That's important to say Delonda, and so yeah, like a lot of scenes between them in this episode is set up, but they're also in the shifting relationship. Setting up the shifting of the relationship in the dynamics, right? Like we're seeing like Delonda be more intense about this because the money that she's used to having coming in from drug enterprise is about to be gone, and so then Naaman is the one that then becomes the de facto provider, and she knows her son, and she knows the capabilities he has in there, or one would assume that. And so there's all sorts of setups there. Naaman, of course, knows himself, knows how he feels about what is there, what is out there for him, and what he has to now do, and the responsibility he has to now take. And so that's what I mean by setup. All of these scenes are setting up those shifting dynamics now that we know that the money faucet is turned off.
So we get to Randy and a staffer, campaign staffer. He gives some information and gives him out the flyers to pass out on election day. He also gives him some walk around money for the day. even before the job is done. Tells them, you can find some friends and to help you out and to help you out as well. So see Randy with some walk around money earlier. Of course, earlier in the episode, we saw Clay Davis uh, talk about splitting up some of his walk around money for Carcetti and Roy. So just continuously seeing how the education and this election and this election, the politics are intertwined and parallels between them. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Maybe I think also there's also a statement going on of what matters in the city of Baltimore at this time, and how to actually get people to do the things you need them to do. And it's not as simple as just pay them to do it. So I think there's something the show is starting to bring up around that.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point because it wasn't just the money. In both cases, we'll see that the money was basically not enough in terms of the job getting done, and we'll see that. We go to Greggs and Norris. They are discussing being detailed to election duty because of the Braddock case. They basically identified the fact that they were basically pawned, basically to a lesser extent saying that, basically they know that they are pawns in terms of this bigger game that's being played, and they realize they're being used. In particular Greg's. What were your thoughts on their interaction?
Yes, Sana.
We go to Carcetti, Norman, and an older gentleman. So again, Carcetti and Norman are out doing some last minute details before everything comes to before the election's over on election day. So an older white gentleman walks up to Carcetti, recognizes him, of course, says that he knew Carcetti's father, and basically says that the Royce administration has gone too far in regards to stealing. During his term there, he says that you expect politicians to steal, all a part of the game. Maybe $1, but basically says that these movies are stealing more than what they should be stealing. As Norman here's a comment as well. What were your thoughts on that on that interaction?
Yeah, the show is just in case they weren't clear before about who his base is. That was them being very clear with the audience about who Carcetti's base is.
So we go to Randy, Dookie, and Kennard. Also Donut as well. So they are Randy recruits them to pass out information. This is before they, of course, don't know that he already has the money. That he has the money from the staffer. So he convinces them to pass out voting information on voting. Michael, of course, declines, and so he gets Randy gets Dookie, Kennard, and Donut to help him out with passing out the information. What were your thoughts?
Shut up.
And also, I also noticed, again, Michael not going along with the crowd, not being interested in that, being interested in going his own way. So keep that in mind as well. You go to Delonda, Bodie, and Naaman. So Naaman Delonda takes Naaman down to go see Bodie. She basically demands Bodie to give to give Naaman a package. Says that he's going to do better. Says that basically he's going to do better. Bodie, of course, knows who Delonda is. She brings up Weebay and says, I can give you a cell number. And Bodie, of course, knew Weebay very well, and kind of pays his respect to Weebay by giving in to Delonda. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, as we both already stated, this is about Delonda and her son Naaman and their relationship and Naaman's relationship. Naaman's evolving personality. And this is the case because at the end of this scene, Bodie goes, "It tells me a lot about why you are the way you are."
Yeah. When he says, we call your mom a dragon lady. We call your mom, what we call your mom is a dragon lady. And yeah, he basically calls out Naaman from that standpoint. So yeah, that going on as well as also showing his, shows Bodhi's reverence for, of course, also for Weebay as well. You go to Randy and the crew along with Donut. Of course, Donut has stolen another car. Randy tells them that he already has the money. Of course, this is Randy. This is kind of in a theme with Randy, running his mouth throughout the course of this season, running his mouth. So he basically tells her another secret in regards to he has the money. The kids at this point demand that that they get a part of their cut, get paid. They get, of course, kids passing out election flyers. Of course, they're gonna get bored with it. They get the money. They get money from Randy, and they decide to go get something to eat. And decide to go get something to eat, as they're basically done with passing out things, passing out the voting materials. Randy decides to go and finish the job. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, like the overarching stuff is all about character moments of the showing different quirks of each of the kids' personality. But the other lesson is don't tell people that you've been paid.
Yeah, and also again, and something to keep in mind for moving forward, we see Donut stealing another truck or car. So we see that as well. Go to Cuddy, Naaman, and Michael. So they they're back at the gym. Naaman tells Michael about the package. Tries to basically recruit Michael, says, "You want in on this?" Michael says, "No, this is your thing." Michael sees Cuddy flirting with another mother. So Cuddy comes over to Michael once he's done speaking to a young lady or flirting with a young lady, tries to bond with Michael by talking about women. Michael is not impressed by this at all, and he asks Cuddy asks him about Spider, and Michael says, won't you ask his mom's? And then Cuddy realizes that Michael's basically been paying attention to what's been going on in regards to his philandering around the gym, and says, I've been locked up for a long time. Says, I ain't no angel, and Michael says, no, you ain't, you not that. And that's where kind of he checks Cuddy, tells Cuddy about himself, and very interesting interaction between those two. As maybe it was the first time that Cuddy realized, what he had been doing was in front of these kids, that these kids are watching him. Maybe that's the first time he even thought about it. Once Michael, tells him that or explains that to him. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this again, like we said, this episode is shift, change, however you want to think about it. And so there are various levels of trust. And so Cuddy via Michael is learning about another level of trust he's going to have to get to in order to complete the mission he wants to complete for both himself and the boys.
So we see Carcetti and Norman with his team. They're watching the television. They see Clay Davis endorse Royce publicly, and of course they are somewhat annoyed by this, but not surprised. Norman says he must have shook down Royce for even more money than what he asked for from Carcetti. Carcetti is of course pissed off, saying we paid $20,000 for this, and we see politics. We see politics as usual, and also we see get to see who Clay Davis is as well. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, now you named it. Politics as usual, and Clay Davis is a very savvy politician.
So we go to Omar. Omar is in a liquor store or a corner store, getting a beer, or getting a corner store, getting some cigarettes. He notices the cops outside on looking at a mirror and sees the cop cars. So he puts his gun. He goes to get a beer, puts his gun in the refrigerator or in the freezer, and he is busted by Officer Walker. We know what type of person Officer Walker is. So Officer Walker not only busts Omar, he pushes his head against the wall, cuts Omar's face, and also takes Omar's ring. We see a bunch of cops then come out of nowhere, led by McNulty. They tell him, the charge is murder. They tell him about the warrant for his arrest. He gets a call. They allow him to make a phone call to Butchie, and we see Omar tell Butchie, what the situation is, and Butchie says, I'll take care of it. Of course, Officer Walker takes the ring, and Omar gets hauled off in the wagon by our buddy Sammy. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a good callback to the relationship that Omar and McNulty have built over many seasons at this point.
Yeah, allowing him to make that call. We also see the pull that Butchie has with, saying that, okay, no big deal, I got you, in terms of saying that, when Omar says I'm about to go to, I'm going to jail. So we see, that relationship as well with Omar and Butchie and Butchie's connections as well. So we go back to Carcetti and his wife. So you have Carcetti, his wife, you have Royce and Gray, all the candidates. This is election night. All the candidates are closely watching the results. Carcetti, so we see them watching the results. You see the worry on Royce's face as they say Carcetti is leading. Early returns have Carcetti leading, but not all the returns. But a lot of returns haven't been haven't been sent in or haven't returned yet from Baltimore, from West Baltimore, which is Royce's base. So there's some out there. Seemingly would be some optimism there, but you can see the concern on Royce's face when those initial results come out. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is kind of like the beginning of the coronation that needs to happen in order for the transition for the show to happen.
So we see Delonda and Naaman. Naaman comes home. Delonda has been drinking, and she basically, says, she basically asked Naaman how to go. Naaman said, Naaman lies to her, basically says that, everything is good. As he goes upstairs, he throws the package that was given to him on the bed, on his bed, and on his bed. Um, so we see where that is going. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, this is you see her drinking and a lot, so she's I mean, like, this is the great juxtaposition, right? Like, uh, juxtaposition in this scene, because she's feeling the exact same feelings he's feeling. They're just feeling it in two different positions, right? Like, she's terrified because, like, the family legacy, my immediate comfort is dependent upon him. So she's terrified of that. And then he's like, oh, my mom's immediate happiness and our immediate financial benefit is dependent upon me. And so he's terrified. And what is said by him throwing that package on the bed, and starting to play games, was stated in that. It's stated in her eye, and like the camera lingering on her even as it goes up the stairs, is that both of them know, uh, that, or have a sneaky suspicion, I guess is the best way to put it, that he's not up for this task.
So next scene, we see Randy with Miss Anna. You see, she is still upset about what transpired. A very good scene because nothing is said. He's doing his homework. She looks at him a certain way, and it's just that, oh, we've all been there where you've done something wrong. Your parent or parents are pissed off, and nothing has to be said. It's just that look. It's just that energy in the room that speaks volumes, and that was the case in this particular scene. So I think it's real important with these scenes being back to back because we see two different sets of parents. We see one parent that cares about her own being in regards to Delonda, about her happiness in terms of her money, not about her child per se. And she's upset. And then we see Miss Anna, who absolutely 1000% cares about Randy and his well being, being upset about the choices that he's made. So, thought that was important for them to have. Thought that obviously wasn't a coincidence that they had those scenes back to back with two different parents who have who have various intentions in terms of where their energy is going to. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, you named it. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Um, See Carcetti and his wife, and again, you saw there were a number of scenes with Carcetti and his wife, and we will definitely flush out why that was. Certainly will play into how this episode ended. Uh, he tells his wife that Demper is about to lose. Of course, Demper was with was the white older gentleman that was with Royce, so that is certainly not a good sign for Royce. Um, so that again, this is kind of again a continuation to your point of the coronation, and another sign that things are going in the direction of Carcetti. Um, then we go to Omar in jail. So Omar is, for the first time really in this entire series, Omar looks terrified. He's going in jail. He's in jail. He a lot of these guys certainly that are in jail had he certainly he probably has robbed during the course of his lifetime, and they are excited to see him, waiting to get a piece of him. So he goes into his cell. He's led into his. So we see Omar for the first time really looked scared and really in a place of vulnerability. What were your thoughts?
Yep, you named it.
So Carcetti, his wife says that decides to take him for a walk on the harbor. As the results are coming in, they're walking on the harbor, talking about the future, and Carcetti, saying, uh, we can get some jobs down here, get things back turned around. So he gets a call from Teresa DiGascino, and tells his wife that Royce has conceded. He gives her the numbers that we took two out of every five votes from his base. We took his base, and that we won. And he seems, somewhat despondent, somewhat shocked. She asks him, are we happy?" And he says, he ends up saying, "Yes, we're happy." Uh, Very poignant scene. I've asked a few things on this scene. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's one thing to think about something, to want it, to try really hard for it, against like a lot of, you know, variables and stuff like that. And then it's another thing to actually achieve it. And so, I think that's, I think that's kind of like the thing that really stuck out to me about this scene.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing like a while ago Jerry West talk about winning his first championship. And if you, of course, know about basketball, the fact that the Lakers could never beat the Celtics, and Jerry West always lost to the Celtics, was never beat the Celtics. It was like 0 for 7 in the finals. So he finally wins a championship, beating the Knicks, and he says he felt a sense of it was much relief, and there was relief. He says there was relief and emptiness, and in that, and even more than there was exhilaration. And you kind of got that from Carcetti, sense of I'm not even gonna say relief, but just a sense of somewhat emptiness in terms of achieving this. So very interesting scene from that standpoint. Well played certainly by the actor Adian Gilliam. Did a tremendous job during this scene. So very good scene. Um, and I think also now he realizes that there he's heavy to head that wears the crown. Now he is he's gonna have all the pressure's gonna be on him now to make all these promises and changes that
Absolutely.
he's talked about. So that
That
weight
it.
that weight is gets shifted quick. It was on Royce all these years. Now it's shifted to one Carcetti. So Carcetti goes back to his headquarters gives a celebration speech to the song "We Are Family," of course by I forgot the group that's on there. It's one of those real popular '70s groups. I think it's the Staples Singers. It might have been the Staples Singers. Um, Clay Davis is there, of course, at the celebration. Clay Davis says, I let y'all off light. I could have got y'all for much more.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to working with you though. So you see that Reese Campbell, the Madam President, who we saw earlier in the season, I think like episode 1 or 2. So we kind of get introduced to her as well. So to continue on to your theme of change, uh, we see some characters that will be vital moving forward with Clay Davis and also Nerese Campbell moving forward. What were your thoughts on the celebration scene?
Yeah, this kind of giving a quick glimpse at the players that are coming.
We go back to Omar and Butchie. Omar or Butchie's guy. So Omar's in jail, in his cell, and two big dudes walk up, and Omar, of course, does not know what is about to transpire. He assumed that he's going to protect himself, so he's ready to fight. And the two dudes happen to be Butchie's guys that were sent in to protect him. Omar, of course, is relieved because if a fight did break down, he certainly was not going to win that fight with those two dudes. So he's relieved that he has some protection on the inside. The dude that does most of the talking is the real life Omar, Donnie Andrews. That guy is the real life Omar who passed away a few years back. So kind of, that's David Simon and company kind of, using along with the Deacon, kind of using real life players and real life characters to tell the story as well. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Shut up.
So we go back to Carcetti and his team. They are in the wee hours of the morning, drinking, celebrating. Norman takes home the other team member. So Carcetti is left by himself with Tariqa DeGassino. And she mentions, you promised me a win bonus, and comes on to Carcetti. And, they start kissing. And she basically tries to convince him to have sex with her. He turns her down not once, but twice in essence. And she says, you know what, just, write me a check. Says, maybe you have learned something. Write me a check. And the episode ends with that. What were your thoughts on that ending scene? Again, a bookend. We begin with Carcetti, we end with Carcetti.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, that was just kind of like, it's like the final coronation is like, no, like the ceremony was there, but it was more that intimate moment right there in terms of he could have went one way with his decision making and he went another way, and that is symbolic in terms of like the corner he's either going to have to turn or has turned in order to do this job.
Yeah, so there were a lot of scenes. You probably saw more of his wife in this scene, in this sort than you did the entire season. That definitely was for a reason. I do believe that those moments, there were a few intimate moments that he had with his wife during the course of this episode. So I think that played a role in him making that decision to turn her down as well. To turn her down as well. So I think that was part of it. And we look at themes in terms of this episode. I had the children, the kids see everything, and we saw that with our boys in particular. We saw Michael seeing Cuddy for who Cuddy is right now. Cuddy is doing some good things with the boxing gym, but he still is in reform as far as him as a person. He still is trying to find his way, and Cuddy still doesn't recognize the effect that he has on these young boys, or his actions have on these young boys that he's around. So you see that going on. You see Naaman able to identify what was going on in regards to when they are taken in by the teachers, and the program is discussed to them by Coben and what have you. He compares it to Gen Pop. And of course, he's familiar with that in regards because of Weebay. And, Damon says, you're getting us ready for Gen Pop, tells Coben. Coben was like, you know what, you're right. uh, and they recognize. And one of the other kids during that scene says, we were here to you're taking us so we get out of everybody else's shit. So the kids know what's going on, despite how young they are, despite lack of maybe life experience. They know. They pick up fast and they know what's going on. They know what's going on. And that's why you'll hear a lot of times. You can bullshit a lot of people. It's hard to bullshit a student. So I think that was prevalent in regards to what transpired over the course of this episode in regards to the themes. And to your point, there's a lot of change going on. You're gonna have a new mayor, a new state's attorney. Um, you see even physical changes. If you notice, if you've been following us throughout the course of these episodes, the kids are growing up. They're literally growing. We're growing up before our eyes, getting taller, voices getting deeper, getting taller, and so number of changes going on over the course as we head towards the midpoint of this season. Um, what were your thoughts on the themes of this particular episode?
Very good things.
Who you have as your MVP?
I think there could be only one MVP this episode for me, and it's Carcati.
Yes, yeah, I think that was an easy call with Carcetti from start to finish. Um, this was his episode. This was his episode. It was supposed to be his episode, but he definitely did. The character definitely delivered throughout the course of this episode. Who'd you have as your for Shardy?
Yeah, I mean, like I really, again, like I'm just struck by that scene of Cuddy running through the neighborhood, and so I mean, like I'll give it to Cuddy for that, but there are a lot of people that made that scene possible, but I love that scene so much.
It's a great scene. And they rarely use music during the course of an episode like that.
No, they don't.
You will hear music playing in the background, but that's actual like live music. Like there've been a number of scenes over the course where it's real music playing as like real life. But they rarely, unless it's the end of the season montages, put those aside. They rarely use a musical montage, especially in the middle of the season or during the episode. So yeah, that was very well placed. The song, the ideal of change and using Cuddy, who was one of our performers from last season, and continues to is continually to be to kind of reform his character and himself. I mean, he's still developing from that standpoint. There's certainly not a coincidence that they use him for that particular scene. So yeah, I definitely have no problem with that. I had the I had Carcetti, his wife. They had a number of good scenes, quality scenes together. But the one, of course, where when he finds out that he is going to become mayor, and that reluctance and his reaction, I thought they both did excellent jobs. I thought that him, Adrian, Carcetti in particular, was well acted in terms of that particular scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was definitely a Carcetti dominated scene, a political dominated scene, and there were a couple things in this episode that will certainly carry throughout. We will see throughout the rest of the season in terms of changes for our characters. There was one other scene uh, with with Randy, his mom, and Carver. So Carver went to the house, um, reassured Miss Anna that this is serious, but as long as he once he's done his suspension, long as he goes back to school and keeps his mouth shut, he'll be fine. And she, of course, Miss Anna is nervous because she realizes she's nervous about the fact that him talking to the cops, uh, or him talking to the principal, or him opening his mouth in general. She's nervous about the consequences of that of him being a part of this situation in particular. So we kind of got an introduction between Carver and Naaman, direct introduction between those two, and we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the season. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, The Wire Remix, Season 4, Episode 6. As always, thanks to one Robert Sapp.
All right, sir. Stay safe, stay healthy.
All right. Of course, this episode will be up up in a couple hours, and I will see you next time on this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, and also with The Wire, Season 4, Episode 7, unto others.